Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Seperti yang kita tahu, setiap mualaf selalu punya kisah yang menarik, unik, dan inspiratif. Seperti narasumber kita kali ini, sosok perempuan yang inspiratif, bukan hanya menarik dari perjalanan hijrahnya, tapi juga setelah beliau menjadi muslim, banyak gebrakan yang beliau lakukan dan pasti menginspirasi kita semua. Nah, penasaran kan? Yuk, sama-sama kita sapa.
Assalamualaikum and good morning. It's Juma Reflections time and I am continuing on my Hijrah story. And remember that this particular mini-series is all about you. I'm answering all of your questions about my reversion story, what it's like to be a revert in the first 6 to 12 months, or any other questions that you might have related to this topic. Because I know that a lot of people have questions about people who become Muslim, but don't really have a place to ask, so you can ask me. So in today's video, I am answering the question, how did my parents respond to my reversion? Okay, so the easy answer is that they were okay, but it took quite a lot for me to get to the point of making sure that they're okay. So let me tell you my story of how I actually got to the point of telling them and then how they reacted. Okay, so for any big thing, my strategy is always tell dad and dad will tell mom. Dad has a really gentle, very patient, very compassionate way of speaking. He really knows how to talk to mom. So anyway, tell dad, dad tells mom. So that was the first decision. The second thing is that I didn't come out and tell them directly, but I dropped hints. You know, I told my dad, you know, dad, I'm living in Malaysia. There's a lot of Muslims around. I'm kind of learning a little bit about Islam and seeing what it's about. You know, so little hints like that so that he actually has an idea that, oh, okay, so she's being exposed to this, right? And then towards the middle of the year, dad came to visit me in Malaysia. And yeah, basically what I did was I introduced him to my Islamic teacher. I wanted to make sure that he knows that I'm not learning bad things and I'm not learning things from someone who is strange or someone who is extreme or anything like what he might have seen on TV. Okay, and the other thing that I did right after I introduced him to my teacher is that I took him to Malacca, and I think that was a really great choice because I knew that as a parent, one of the main things that he would be feeling is that, you know, am I going to lose my daughter? Is she going to change into something that I don't know? So I mean, I wanted to make sure that he knew that I was the same little girl that he raised. I'm the same person that he loves, but inshallah better. And he was fine. He was really happy that day. And I think he was happy for the rest of his trip. So after that, I dropped more hints until it was December. And remember, I gave myself a 1-year deadline. So December basically was my deadline to tell my parents that I've changed, I've accepted a new religion, and that I'm happy with it. But still, I was terrified. But I tell you what, there's one thing throughout the year that I haven't told you guys yet that I did that I think that was the main thing that helped, is that I made the same dua to Allah from the first time, from the first day, basically, that I learned how to salah, which is, I mean, the same day that I declared Shahada, I was actually taught how to pray. I was told very early on that one of the best times to make dua to Allah is in sujood. So I started to make this one dua all the time. And what I mean by all the time is every single salah. Every single salah without fail, I would say this dua. And word for word, my dua was, Ya Allah, please soften my parents' heart to accept me as a Muslim daughter. That was my dua. I mean, if you think about how many times you would offer salah in a year, right? And sometimes I would say it a few times during one salah. It was so important to me that I wanted to make sure that Allah really saw my effort. And I think maybe you guys can take this tip that whatever you want, especially if it's hard, especially if it's scary, you really need to prove yourself to Allah that this is something that is really important to you. You really need it. You really, really need help with it, you know, and however scared you are, however important it is, that's the amount of dua that you should be making to Allah. So for me, it was 1 full year of that dua. And then by the time that I told my dad, I feel like a miracle happened. So, if you can imagine, my dad came to visit me during Christmas time. I mean, you know, he's a Christian, so of course he would come and visit me during that time. And I told myself that, yeah, this is it. I have to tell him now. So I basically said these words: Dad, I have something to update you about me and Islam. And that was all I said. I mean, that was literally all I said, because the next thing that he said was, Aliza, wait, I have something to say to you. And I was like, oh my God, what is my dad gonna say to me? I was like freaking out inside, right? But I had to maintain. I was like, oh, okay, what is it, Papa? You know? But I mean, the next thing that he said was the most beautiful thing that he could have said to me as a daughter. And every time I think of it, I still get a little bit choked up, you know, because it was the power of all of those dua. But not only that, it was because of the beauty of my dad's heart, you know. He said to me, you know, Aliza, I've been thinking, ever since you told me about you being exposed to Islam and introducing me to your teacher and all these things, I've been thinking, if this religion brings peace to you, gives anchor to you, that's what a religion is supposed to do. It's supposed to cool your heart. It's supposed to anchor you, give you hope. If this religion gives you hope, you go ahead. You go ahead and you don't worry about me. You don't worry about the rest of your family. You don't worry about anyone. You go ahead. And he talked like that for maybe 10 minutes. And I didn't have to say anything. And I really believe that it was Allah who helped me with that, because I was so scared. I was so scared about what he would say, and I was scared that they wouldn't accept me as well. But that dua that I made to Allah over and over and over for acceptance, that was what helped me. And that was it. That was it. That's how my dad reacted. He completely and totally accepted me, 100%. So after he visited me and we had that amazing talk, he was actually on his way to see Mama. So he went there, and of course they both called me when he arrived. That's pretty normal. And then I was waiting. I think after the third phone call, I finally asked Papa, did you tell Mama what's going on? I thought you were going to tell her. And he was like, yeah, I told her. Is there an issue? I mean, there wasn't an issue. I told her. Do you want to talk to her? And I was like, no, I don't want to talk to her about this. If you told her already, then that's fine. Okay, we will take that. So yeah, so there was no big reaction from her. She did ask me 2 questions, maybe 3 weeks after I had that chat with Dad. And okay, so the first question was, are you wearing all black and covering your face? And I was like, no, Mom, I'm still pretty colorful. She's like, okay. And then the second question was, Aliza, what's that noisy song that they're always playing? It's so noisy and disruptive. What is that? They're playing it so many times a day and it's loud, it's everywhere. So I was like, oh, Mom, that's not a song. It's called the Adhan. And do you know what that is? And she's like, no, that's why I'm asking you. So I told her, you know, it's very important for Muslims to, you know, be reminded to pray to God. And Muslims pray 5 times a day to make sure that they have a continuous connection. And what that song says is, you know, calling people to come pray, and to remember God. And she was like, oh, that's what that song means, or call to prayer means. Well, why don't you all tell people that, so that people understand that you're just going to pray? And I was like, I don't know. But anyway, it was interesting that that she wanted to know, and those were the only 2 questions that she actually had. That's how my parents reacted. So yeah, if you guys want to know anything else about my reversion story or what it's like to be a revert, please let me know in the comment section. And yeah, I already have a running list, but I'll put it on the list. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the next Jummah Reflections next week. Assalamualaikum, bye-bye.
Alhamdulillah, demikian sharing mu'alaf kita hari ini. Luar biasa ya, sangat menginspirasi dan memotivasi kita untuk menjadi lebih baik lagi. Hijrah bukan hanya berpindah agama, tapi menjadi lebih baik dan menjadi kebaikan buat orang lain. Semuanya mudah jika Allah berkehendak. Ayo hijrah, karena hijrah bukan hanya milik para mu'alaf, tapi juga milik kita yang sudah terlahir sebagai Islam, tapi masih lalai dan melanggar perintah-perintahnya. Sebelum saya akhiri, jangan lupa like, share, subscribe, dan komen di bawah sini. Pastikan aktifkan lonceng notifikasi agar bisa terus mengupdate video-video terbaru dari kami. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Inna ad-dina 'indallahil Islam.